has begun. And we have
Here we
people
go.
actually showing up. Woohoo!
Hello, friends. Welcome. We've got some people coming in now. Hello.
Mark, I always get nervous that no one's going to show up. I'm always like, is it just going to be you and me? And we're going to have to talk about your bike?
I would just listen. An hour of you and me. It'd be a glorious thing, mate. It'd be dreamy. I'd love it. Hello, everybody. Hello. Nick, listen, at these webinars, you have to get people involved in the chat. I am always doing the one of like, hello, tell me where you're dialing in from. I am dialing in from Sydney, AU. Feel free to jump in the chat. Nick has dissed this as being very boring and the thing that everybody does, which is completely fair. So he's also demanded that when you write in, if you can share your favorite ice cream, I am going to be a bit of a weirdo here and say that I have discovered a licorice ice cream recently that was unbelievably fantastic. But I imagine no one else is going to agree with me. But please do let us know where you're dialing in from in the chat. Hello, Geelong. Hello, Melbourne. Coffee ice cream. Peppermint chocolate chip is also very good. I'm with that.
I like cookie dough, and I always get in trouble in my house because the part that I like the most is the cookie dough as opposed to the ice cream surrounding the cookie dough. So I've been known to like sort of pick through and basically just eat a mound of cookie dough and leave everybody else with vanilla ice cream. And I guess there's some chocolate chips in there.
But this is perfect, Nick, because today's chat is going to be all cookie dough and no vanilla. We're going to get rid of all of that fluff, that junk. We're going to go straight into the cookie dough. By the end, you're going to be like, this is too much goodness. I'm a bit overdosed. I'm a bit like buzzing from too much cookie dough, but it's going to be glorious. I hope everyone liked that terrible joke. Okay. Licorice. Someone else has called out licorice. Salted caramel fave. Fair enough. Okay, I'm glad I have some support on this wild side. All right, we've got 50 folks in the door. Nick, I think it's time for us to kick off. Okay. Welcome to this webinar. I think like today we're going to be sort of talking a whole bunch about like proposals. Obviously, this is the zone that I live in, that Qwilr lives in. We sort of spend a bunch of time here. We're very, very, very thrilled to have Nick Cegelski, nailed it, from 30 Minutes to President's Club here with us. We are big fans of Nick. If you don't know 30 Minutes to President's Club, the podcast, please go and check it out. It's really wonderful, short, sharp, tactical, high cookie dough quality advice on all your podcast feeds. There's also newsletters and a bunch of other stuff as well. And Nick is just, I think, just one of the best like enthusiastic young sellers out there. It's really a joy to sort of work with him. We're a partner with Nick. Actually today, I think we're going to sort of talk a little bit about how that sort of came to be. So a bit of foreshadowing there. A tiny bit of housekeeping to get us started, and then I'll throw to Nick for an intro. As we go through this, there's going to be Q&A at the end, but please feel free to throw questions into the chat or into the Q&A as we go along. Nick and I may well engage with them in the moment. We might go back to them later. We've got the wonderful Sarah in the background who'll make sure this all goes well. That's like the housekeeping is all done. Let's roll into it. Nick, let's kick it off. Tell us a little bit about yourself, mate.
Cool. So for those of you who don't know me, Mark got my name right. It's Nick Cegelski. I'm based in California. I spent most of my career selling accounting software to law firms, and now I run 30 Minutes to President's Club, and I sell all of our advertising sponsorships on our media platform. And so I'm really excited for this one, Mark, because we are in proposal season right now. All of our customers are saying, hey, 2024 is coming up. We're doing our budgets. We want to activate with you in 2024. Let's look at a proposal. And in my opinion, in my observation, proposals this year are really, really different than they were 1 or 2 years ago. Because what's happening is the champions that I'm selling to in the past could get the deal done on their own. And what's happening now is that person is having to take this proposal and shop it around internally in front of 2, 3, 4, 5 different people, some of whom I might have met, but others who I'm never even going to see. I think you call them like the invisible buyer. And I'm learning that I have to make it extremely, extremely easy for my champion to be able to socialize the problems that we are solving and why it matters to solve them with us. Otherwise, my deal is going to get lost to no decision. And so I think today you and I are going to talk through some of the best practices principles that folks can be using related to their proposals. And my promise for everyone is I am not going to talk about stuff like, oh, you've got to sell value in your proposal. We are going to get into specifics, stuff that you all can immediately do and write and put and adjust in your proposals so they are more impactful today. So that's what I'm excited about, Mark.
Mate, I love it. Feeling the energy here. This is fantastic. Look, team, friends on the call, we're going to launch straight into a little poll here. So really, I think why are we sort of here? Like generally speaking, well, do you know what? You're going to tell us how are sales going for you and your team right now? I think I have a suspicion as to how that is given the general market, given feedback from other sellers and sales leaders and founders that I sort of chat to regularly. But yeah, how are sales going for you right now? So the poll is live. Please, yes, that's critical. Everyone needs a bicycle. Also, need a plant in the background as well. Very critical to have that. Apparently, also white walls and furnishings. So let's. I don't know how the poll is going, but please vote. Let's go. Are you crushing it? Is it okay? Are you getting by, or are you just sobbing regularly? We ready to go, Sarah? Big reveal. 9% crushing it. There we go. That's not a sort of a shock, if I'm honest. Shout out to okay could be better and much love given to most days I want to cry. We are gonna do our very best, like genuinely, to try to be helpful and provide some things that's actually like sell to value. No, but we're gonna try to be genuinely helpful today and provide that side. And I think like just generally like why are we here and why this topic, like just to be very transparent, like Qwilr, we sell a proposal software tool. We actually are sometimes a little scared about doing like webinars just about proposals and in a funny way. And Nick, when we sort of came on, had this chat, he was like, why are we dancing around this? Like, let's just dive into this. This is such a critical topic. Sales is hard right now. Like this is a genuine like challenge at the moment. As he sort of said, there's like a bunch of FUD in the market. You also have like, this thing of like multiple people behind the scenes. We do call it like the invisible buyer. Whether it's the CFO, whether it's like IT or security, whether it's just like other people on the team who kind of don't know who they are, like how do you empower your champion to go and sell to them? And this is a thing that we've been thinking about, working on like for a bunch of years. And I think we're sort of keen to sort of talk through like what we've seen work from our side, like what Nick knows works as well, and just sort of provide like a little bit of like context, clarity, data on things that we sort of think like actually move the needle here and are genuinely valuable. Also, I think just generally, before we sort of dive in here, like, we have this nice little story for you. So obviously, like, Nick and the marketing team have been talking for a while. We are a customer and a partner with 30 Minutes to President's Club, which has been like really, I think, fantastic for us. I was the invisible buyer. Like I did not meet Nick and like until after we'd signed the deal. Like I was the person who like signed off on a proposal for, not nothing, that bicycle is not for free. Yeah. And I think we sort of went through a process there and Nick obviously was wonderful and clever and used Qwilr for his tool to do that, to pitch us. But I think like we're going to talk a little bit about like a specific example just to try to tie it back to like real examples, but we'll also make sure we talk in a high level as well.
Yeah. All right. I think, well, let's talk about that, Mark, because you're right. I think as I'm thinking about how we communicate some of these proposal best practices, you are a current 30 Minutes to President's Club customer. And my guess is you, as the CEO of Qwilr, have your team come to you with all sorts of different, hey, we're looking at this tool or we're looking at this initiative beyond just what might be like the marketing stuff that you're doing with 30 Minutes to President's Club. My guess is your tech team's bringing you stuff. My guess is your HR team is bringing you stuff. And for you, you have the experience of trying to figure out, should we be buying this? What is this? You have to make those hard decisions, and you don't have the bandwidth to be in every single sales meeting with the salesperson like me. And so go ahead.
Well, and also I will say, like, just to the analogy of selling now versus selling 2 years ago, like, yeah, 2 years ago, when the magic money tap was on full, and I was like, yeah, let's just buy everything. Let's go. Like, sure, that sounds like a great idea. Let's give it a try. And I think, like, I definitely am that person on the other side now, being like, I don't know, like what's the value? Do we really need this? Are we like, like, pushing and prodding a bit more. And I think it's like, I think we all know that to be true. Like, we all have felt that to some degree, whether they're making the buying decision or you see it within your company. Like, that is the genuine moment that we're in right now.
Yes.
And yeah, no one has infinite time. You kind of need it to be compelling pretty quickly, but also, like, clear as to what it is you're actually buying and why the team, like, is excited about it and all that sort of good stuff.
Yeah. So let's talk about some of the principles to make that real. I think we have like 4 or 5 that we're going to talk about right now. And Taylor put this in the chat. Taylor said, companies are only buying stuff right now that solves their biggest problems. Folks, if you agree with that statement, put a 1 in the chat. I would be putting a 1 in the chat if I had my keyboard in front of me right now. 1, 1, 1, 1, 1 all day. This actually brings me to the first principle that you and I were talking about on the prep for this, Mark, which is you must start your proposal with the problems that you are solving. You must start the proposal with the problems that you heard from the customer. And I'm being very intentional here with this language. Problems that you heard from the customer, both components of that matter. Because if I think about Mark, the CEO of Qwilr, if you are getting handed a proposal that is 2 or 3 or 4 pages long, the first thing you need to determine should I look at pages 2, 3, and 4 is this problem even worth solving? Because a proposal is outlining multiple things, 2 of which, the problem that needs to be solved, part A, and then part B, which is how my company, how my product specifically solves that problem. And Mark, there is 0 reason for you to investigate how you should solve a problem if that problem doesn't matter to your company. When you run a business like you are right now, there's problems that you're probably okay living with. We all have problems in our life that we're okay living with. That's the reality of being a human being. And so the proposal has to start with the problems that you heard from the team, because that is how you earn the rest of reading the proposal.
100%.
Go ahead. I could go on a 20-minute rant on this.
I think, like, when you're in that conversation, when you're in that discovery phase, when you're going through that stuff, I mean, it is so critical to understand what that problem is. Yes. And understand, like, how much is this being talked about internally? Like, is everyone kind of aware and aligned around this thing? And I think, look, obviously, sometimes it's the seller's job to take those words that your champion is saying and, try to craft it a little bit. And hopefully you're selling a number of similar deals and you have some understanding of, like, what this looks like inside the market and how to frame it in a way that, again, is attention grabbing for a CEO, etc. But 100%, like, that is the critical sort of thing of being like, why should I care, right? Like, I get so many emails and messages and inbounds and, like, meetings and Zooms and everything else. Like, you need to be able to, like, quickly, easily just stand out, be clear, tell me why I need to care.
Yep. Yeah. So a couple things I'll add to that is, 1, we should be leading the proposal with problem-oriented language. Mark, if I hear from your team that, we want to increase brand awareness, that's not a problem. That's actually a goal that you're trying to achieve. And a lot of times when we talk with prospects, they share goals that they have with us. We want to increase our pipeline. We want to increase our brand awareness. We want to be able to ship new product features faster. Those are all things that are worthwhile to pursue, but none of those things are problems. And so my recommendation is, step 1 is, when you hear goals from your prospect, find a way to flip them and turn them into problems. And what that might sound like is, Mark, if I'm on a discovery call with you and you say, yeah, Nick, we really want to increase our brand awareness of Qwilr. My response is going to be, thanks for sharing that, Mark. I guess, does that mean you feel like there's a lot of folks who aren't aware that you exist. Mark's response to that now is a problem, right? Yeah, we do need to solve that. Cool. So flip goals and turn them into problems. And I actually think it might be helpful to share the proposal that you got. So folks, if you can't see my screen, if you're going for a walk or something while you listen to this webinar, one, props to you for getting your steps in. But two, this will be a little bit challenging to follow. So what I did when I was selling to Qwilr was I'd met with a bunch of folks on the Qwilr team, but I hadn't met with Mark, and I knew this was going to get in front of him. And so what I did was I actually used the Qwilr product to put together a proposal for him. And part of the reason that I did this was I wanted Mark to see that we were investing in the relationship before it even happened. Here I am using your product to give you a proposal. This thing is cool. So what did we do? We led with the problems they were looking to solve. You believe there is untapped TAM. Qwilr was looking to grow their top of funnel brand awareness. And one of the ways they ended up doing this with us is we're running a bunch of podcast ads on our 30 Minutes to President's Club podcast. Qwilr sponsors some of our webinars. Qwilr gets some promotion in our newsletter. And the problem to solve was there is untapped TAM that the team wanted to find a way to get in front of. They also were looking for a way to teach the market what Qwilr actually did, that it's a modern way to sell. And what I did was I didn't say, oh, yeah, you want to just grow your brand awareness. I said there's untapped TAM. So I tried to frame this in problem-oriented language. And so the experience for Mark should be, okay, why are we even here? This is what Qwilr is looking to do. And then the next piece that I'll talk about, Mark, this was something that you actually mentioned earlier, was you want to make sure that your team is bought in on this, right? You don't want to sign a proposal or sign a contract where it's like, Nick talked to one person in the marketing org, and like, you're not even sure if the team's really bought in on things across the board. And so I think one of the things that we also talked about is a best practice on your proposals is I love, this is one of my favorite things to do on my proposals, is I'll go to one of the people that I've met with, one of the stakeholders' LinkedIn's, and I'll get a picture of them. And then I'll actually put quotes that I heard from the team related to the problems that I solve directly in the proposal. And this is one of the best ways, in my opinion, to one, make the problem really, really clear, but then two, make it clear who we've actually talked to.
Yeah, I think that again, that was very impactful to sort of not only like see the problem statement in there, but then have it like reinforced by the people who are saying, like sort of making the case. You've kind of got like my team in a funny way. It's like when I get this, like puts a smile on my face because I'm like, great. Obviously, it's our product. That's nice. But then to see like, it kind of makes my job challenging to say no, right? Because I'm like, I'm seeing a clear problem statement that aligns to something that sort of I'm aware of, and then I'm seeing my team, like one of my top sellers, my head of marketing being like, here is this particular problem that we're sort of working on, and I think like. Again, Nick is arming the champion with the best possible tools to sell, to do the selling for them, right? Like, 'cause I think like, yes, obviously great sellers do wonderful jobs on the call, in communication with their champions, like demoing to various things. But there are all of these like behind the scenes buyers in the process. And, how are you arming your champion and the various people who are working with them with the best possible stuff that they can help win this deal sort of with you and for you, as well as frankly, like this is also your like chance to speak directly to those invisible buyers, right? And like there's a whole bunch of different strategies. We can talk about some of them today as to like how you can actually be like, hey, I'm actually going to like speak directly to that person and allow them to sort of understand, what's going on there. Shout out to everybody in the chat who is helping us with all of our acronyms. We are going to be, unfortunately, we're both like sales brain. Acronyms live up here, so we're gonna try to be better as we go forward here. But
so you know what? That's actually an error that I think I made in that proposal, because when I did that, that's me assuming that Mark, the CEO, knows what those acronyms mean. And so this is a cool learning experience for me, where I'm like, okay, if folks in the audience don't know what that means, you probably, when you're putting a proposal together, should be avoiding acronyms and industry-specific jargon that your buyer might not know. Of course, Mark's marketing team knew what that stuff was, but I can't assume that Mark knows every nuanced marketing term. And so that's actually a learning for me. And it actually brings me to one of the other things that we talked about in the sort of plays we should be thinking about, Mark, which is we want to make this thing really, really simple. I see a lot of proposals where it's like 5 or 6 pages of text, text, text. And the reality is sellers do that because they want to include all of the detail about every little problem that they solve and nuance and feature that they have. And there's some buyers that want to get into that. If I'm working with a marketing specialist, that person might want to get into all of the little weeds and details. Mark doesn't. And so I think one of the other things that I think about is avoid having too much text on your proposal. And instead, think about if a picture is worth 1,000 words, what might a video be worth? And so one of the other things that I really love doing is including video in my proposals. And so what I actually did here was I filmed a short video that goes through in depth some of the elements of the proposal. And what happens here is, Mark, you can choose to watch this piece or not. The folks that really want to get into all of the detail of the proposal will watch that video. Folks who just want to skim it won't. And so I like doing almost like a choose your own adventure of, I know I keep turning in on and off the screen share. I'll include videos for folks that want to go in depth on certain things. What I'll also do is I love using like collapsible stuff that makes it not seem as long as it actually is. Like if you look at this on the surface, it's a pretty quick skim and there's not a ton of detail. But if you want to go in depth on certain things, you can. And so I think that's one of the other things is like make it really easy for the person to skim. But then for folks that want to go in detail, they have the ability to do that.
Just 100%. I mean, I think, and this is one of the things that like obviously the web enables this in a way that like PDFs don't, right? If you want to have all the information in there because you're like, oh, like, you know, I want to make sure that if the CFO looks at it, there's something for him, and if the security person looks at it, there's something for them, and if you know if I don't know, someone from customer success looks at it, there's something for them, and blah blah blah. And I think having these different, having the ability to sort of quickly go through, understand the problem, understand sort of the solution, and then be like, okay, I can dive into the relevant part here is very valuable. There's a real thing like in sales, like selling isn't telling. And I think that like when you receive a wall of text, like, you know, like 3,000 words, it can just feel like way too much. Like, you know, everyone's had those things where Gong has told you after the call, like you spoke for 70% of that call and you're like, oh no. But I think that that's, you know, this sort of, you can sort of have this, the same sort of thing on the same way. On video, one of the things that we've seen a bunch of late is people who use tools like Gong or Zoom recordings or whatever else.
Yes.
Either embedding or linking to the snippet that is just the demo that they gave to the team. So maybe you gave a demo to like 2 people on the call, but there's like 7 more people who want to view the demo. Again, if you just embed that on the thing, you maybe don't need to have like a second or third demo. You can actually kind of just like make this a bit faster. But also, you know, if the CEO gets it or the CFO gets it or someone gets it and they go, oh, there's a demo here. Press play, hit the 2x button or the 1.5x button, and they can kind of skip around a bit, jump through and be like, oh, okay, I get it. Like maybe they stop at the halfway mark. Like, oh, I get it. But like you allow people to like level up to go as deep as they want to go very quickly, very easily, and not in that sort of like, but without sending them like a 17-page PDF that just feels like a sort of a shouting wall of text.
Well, what you just described was one of my favorite things to do when I sold accounting software to law firms. I sold accounting software, and there are so many different functions of that law firm that would use the accounting software. The AP department, the billing department, their analytics team, the lawyers needed to get into this software to bill their time. And Mark, I'm not kidding when I say we would do 6-hour-long demos because we would have to change the room. We'd do an hour demo with the AP team, an hour team with the AR team, an hour demo with the analytics team, because this was a full accounting suite.
Yeah.
When I sent the demo video to the managing partner of the law firm, the kiss of death would have been to send a 6-hour-long recording. And so instead, what I would do is I'd actually, you're right, if you record your demos, you might consider making a highlight reel where you take the best moments from the demo, the 3 minutes where the AP team was like, holy cow,
Wow.
this is right. This is going to save me hours a week, and turn that into a boom, boom, boom highlight reel demo. Look, if they want the 6 hour, we'll sit down with the managing partner of the law firm and do a 6 hour demo. But most want to know the highlight reel. And actually, what most want to know is the quotes from the team where they're saying, think about an AP specialist saying, yeah, the mass invoice upload is going to save me 6 to 7 hours a week. Cool. Yep. I want to include quotes like that in my proposal. The other thing is Tatiana, I think, asked a question around, can people, and I hope I'm saying that name right, said, can you see if people have viewed the videos? I'm sort of doing this out of order now, Mark. The answer usually is yes. I think almost every video tool, I know Qwilr can let you know when somebody has viewed the Qwilr page. And that actually brings me to one of my other sort of proposal principles, which is when you see somebody engage with the proposal, please do not email them. Do not sit and think, great, they looked at the proposal. Pick up the phone and call them and say something like, Mark, I saw you were just looking at the proposal, and I thought, usually folks end up having some questions coming out of viewing it. What can I answer for you? And 9 times out of 10, Mark won't have questions, but he will want to have a brief conversation around, oh, yeah, it's really interesting. Great. Now I can run some discovery. I can sell some more value of what I do, but use those views as a trigger to call different stakeholders. And if you don't know the specific human being that looked at it, call your champion. Hey, I saw a couple folks who've been looking at the proposal. My guess is you're getting bombarded with questions. Can I help you answer them? Great. You're working in service of them and helping them sell on your behalf.
Yeah. I think again, with all this sort of stuff, the other thing I would say just with on the analytics piece is, yes, you can see in Qwilr and also in the video tool whether they viewed it. You can also see with Qwilr, it's a web page. Obviously, you can have an understanding of has this person viewed it. I think a thing that can be useful, and I don't want to talk my own book too much, but like I think that something that can be very interesting with Qwilr is like, and I'm now gonna be the one doing this, jumping into the screen share. So hold on. Let's see if I can be competent here. So we're in this sort of this proposal. We have this little this piece down the bottom, which is sort of folded away, and this is a screenshot just of what part of, just a small part of the Qwilr's like analytics tool here is, and so with a number of proposals. And again, you don't have to use this feature if you don't want to, but a lot of people do use it, either for 2 reasons. 1, for security, and 2, for sort of analytics on this side. You can say like, hey, to view this page, you just need to like verify, your identity. And so you can do things like, hey, anybody in this instance, an @qwilr.com address can view the proposal quickly and easily. It's just a little, sign in or a little email adjust on that side. And this sort of does give you the ability to say like, hey, I know that this isn't being sent around to third parties who shouldn't be viewing this. I can keep this secure and safe in a much, much more sophisticated way than you can a PDF. Like PDF security has been broken for like more than 15 years. But on the flip side, you also do get that insight into like who are the buyers to some degree. And so you might sort of come in here and be like, hey, I've spoken to these various people, but you might be like, oh, okay, like, but actually like, Dustin is our RevOps person, Brandon is our growth person. I'm obviously me, but like you can sort of have this sort of idea of like, hey, what's going on here? What sections are they spending the most time on? Like who's coming back for multiple views, et cetera, et cetera. And I think like, again, as you sort of go into this sort of path, you can sort of have that like much, much, much better security to make sure that the right people are looking at it. But then B, also having some degree of like additional insight into like, who is that invisible buyer? Who are they? Who actually matters here? And that can sort of help you understand your customer in a good way as well.
I mean, I'll tell you what I'm doing with that data is every single person who viewed that, I am using that as a reason to call them. Yep. Again, one of the things that we were talking about is like, what's the sort of umbrella over all of these proposal best practices? And it's the reality that your champion or the champions or the stakeholders that you're working with they need to socialize this, and they need to teach their company and their team, both in the getting the deal done stage, but even more in the actual implementation of the thing stage, that this is good, this is right, this is why we should be doing this. And it is your responsibility as a salesperson to make it as easy as possible for your champions to sell on your behalf. One of those things is taking the work off of them. And so if I'm selling to the CMO of Qwilr, but I see Mark has gone in the proposal 2 or 3 times, I'm going to call Mark. Hey, I saw you looked at the proposal a couple times. I might actually email you if you don't pick up the phone, Mark. I saw you looked at the proposal a couple times. I want to make sure that I'm helping answer questions that have come up. How can I help? Great. You will oftentimes now use the proposal as a reason to multi-thread with the customer, which can be really, really powerful. So I'm thinking about some of the other principles that we promised we would teach folks. Mark, when you shared, will you actually share again and go to the part where it showed the 30 minutes to President's Club customers? I guess I could do that, but I'm making you work on my behalf.
I'm happy to work, man. Happy to work. And I would say that I'm actually happy to talk about this part here.
I'd love to hear your perspective on it, because my guess is you get sent proposals where folks will put their customer base on it. And you were telling me on the prep call, one of the biggest mistakes you see folks when they give example customers on proposals.
Yeah, well, I think like this is just to be very transparent. Like this is a thing that we struggle with at Qwilr a bit. You know, I think Qwilr is like we're a very broad tool. People use us for all sorts of different things. Obviously, a lot of our use case is proposals. A lot of our use case is for sales teams. You know, maybe 70% of our customers. But you'll see Gail in the chat, who's like, you know, from a university looking to use this for donors and understanding how to, and I think like we have this sort of interesting challenge of like, how do you sort of, if you go to our homepage right now, it's like, I think we literally have, you know, I think we have like a university as a logo. We have software companies. We have more traditional companies. We have like finance companies, this whole sort of thing here. But when we sort of speak to somebody individually, we always want to be like, hey, I'm pitching to a software company. Cool. Did you know we work with Drata and Safety Culture and Zendesk and like, you know, a whole bunch of other sort of companies that you would hopefully know at that size. And for me coming in here, like Qwilr, you know, a core segment for us is what we think of as like modern sellers, you know, people who are, I think, like being very innovative and thoughtful and engaging in how they present their proposals. They care about data. They care about optimizing things. They care about improving how their sales process works and kind of modernizing it in the same way that like marketing went through a big modernizing revolution sort of a decade ago. We think sales is going through that right now. And in this sponsors list is like, and I love that you use the word club, because like this is the club that I wish to be part of, right? I think, you know, we're customers of Gong. We think very highly of a bunch. We've been customers of actually a bunch of people on this list. We've got partnerships with people on this list. We're sort of talking about like doing co-marketing people on this list. Like this is a core group of people that we sort of think of as being like some of the best in that sort of modern selling thing. And I think that it can be a genuine turnoff if you're like, someone sends you a list of logos and you're like, none of these are relevant to me. Like, I think like this maybe this isn't for me in a funny way. And I think that, that doing this and being thoughtful about this is a great way to build trust. And I think building trust is like, this builds trust, right? And I think right now, like trust genuinely is very important. Like this builds trust. I'm seeing faces, people that I know and like. I actually really love to see, by the way, shout out, like I love that you've only got one shirt. But
oh no.
but it's a great one. But I love seeing and hearing from the person I'm going to work with. Like I don't know, there's just something human about that. Like I think humans like that. And you know, I think I love seeing others again who I'm like, oh, those companies are either companies that I view as peers or companies that I aspire to be. And I think that's like very powerful.
I love that. Well, thanks for sharing that. You made me feel really good. Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. It's really tempting sometimes to share your biggest customer list. Yeah, we work with Walmart and we work with Amazon and we work with these tens of 1,000-person companies. But if you're selling to a company that's got 70 people, that it's actually going to turn the customer off more than it makes them want to buy your thing, because you want to show them, hey, we work with other folks like you, and you actually hurt more than you help when you present customers that are like the opposite end of the spectrum of what they are. I think one other thing you can do to start to build some trust is to use language in the proposal that you heard the customer use. I try to write the problems that I heard in the frame of what you actually said. And so that's one other way that I think you can build trust with the customer.
Okay, so I think we're sort of trending towards Q&A time here. I just wanted to give a little overview before we dive into too deep. So look, the overarching sort of thing here is like, our theme today is about like, sales is hard. The proposal stage can be quite challenging. There can be all of these invisible bias. Let's make it easy for your champion to sell internally, to multi-thread, and to remove a bunch of friction from that process. Nick spoke wonderfully about like leading with problems.
Yep.
We then sort of have spent a bit of time talking about like making it like incredibly real and highly relevant, like making sure it's like actually customized for them. It's not just some generic thing. It's got some quotes, ideally quotes, and if possible, photos of the people on the team who are sort of championing this. You're working to build trust with like, whether it's, video or logos, et cetera. And I think like there's a big part of like, so, lead with problems, make it real and relevant, make it easy. The idea that you can quickly skim through, understand what's going on, you can choose your own adventure, you can sort of find the thing that's relevant to you very quickly. We are, unfortunately, I think all of our brains have become slightly cooked by the internet, and like we are very short, sharp thinkers. I think you have a very limited time to get someone to focus and be brought into this in this era of, insert, social media tool that's destroying the world. And I think that the other thing is here is like, make it simple and just, really demonstrate value very, very quickly.
I got one more, Mark, I want to throw out there, which is, I'm thinking about Gail's question, which was how, more on the flexibility of she's basically saying, how do we communicate the flexibility of the program to be innovative and engaging?
Yep.
And I think my biggest concern with the session that you and I have just led, Mark, is that folks see this and think, awesome, I'm going to put together the most beautiful proposal, whether I do this in Qwilr or I do this in another tool, because everything that we shared here, I think Qwilr makes it easier, and I recommend folks check it out. But a lot of this, you can put somebody's face and a quote. You don't need Qwilr to do that.
Yeah.
But my concern is folks hear this stuff and they say, cool, I'm going to put together a beautiful proposal and throw it to my customer. You should be going through this with your customer live, and you should be doing everything possible to get with them live. And the way that I think about that is, when you have a champion that you're working with and you're putting together a proposal, meet with them and go through the proposal. But one of the questions you should be asking, one, you should be finishing the proposal presentation with a good 10, 15 minutes to spare. And then the next piece you should be discussing is, hey, other folks on your team are probably going to see this. What should we remove? What do we need to add? What questions do you feel like this won't answer for them right away? And you should be game planning with that person for the information that makes it really, really easy for others to consume in that proposal. Your job, once you get their buy-in, a single person's buy-in, you should be talking about, how do we calm this to the rest of the team? How do we make sure everybody else feels like this is something they should be doing? Taylor, best practices on getting stakeholders to actually view your proposals in the first place. Obviously, a lot rides on your champion. I would aim for a live meeting. I always think you should do this in a live meeting and then send them the proposal after the fact. If you can't do that, stuff that I've done before is like film a video of you going through the proposal and send them that. If you can't meet with them live, you've got to be able to voice this over, and just sending a plain PDF or even just like throwing a Qwilr page over the fence, you're setting yourself up for like whatever. You got to be able to voice things over and answer questions.
I think so. I think like something that we do a little bit on Taylor on that side is very similar. So look, Qwilr's a link. You can text a link, you can WhatsApp a link, you can email it, you can there's a variety of different ways you can provide that to people. The other thing we would say is, like, again, people are very visual. If you do a screenshot of, if we sort of see Nick's sort of proposal to us, if you do a little screenshot of that top part there and just sort of have that be a link a clickable image in your email, which is a pretty simple thing to do. That can be a little trick as well. Qwilr actually auto does that a little bit on different platforms. If you share it, on Slack or whatever else, it automatically will pop up on that sort of side there. I suppose like one thing. We've got another question. There's one more thing I'm going to jump into, but so this is from Vinny. I'm very new to Qwilr, so while there's a lot of website reading needed on my end, my first concern around IP protection, if we are uploading our IP into your platform to create proposals, what is the risk it becomes public knowledge due to your machine learning take it away from us to our competitors? Yeah, I mean, so we don't share anything, just be very clear, Vinny, like we share nothing between companies. We don't have any sort of third-party sharing. There's no data on that side. We don't have machine learning, like we have an AI tool that is not trained on any internal data. It's an entirely external thing about building different, you can explore building a new type of on a tool on that side, but we don't train it on anybody's internal content. If you go through our terms of service, you can see that's quite clear. So there's, I suppose, like, I'd be happy to talk about that offline if that makes sense, but like we take that security very seriously. We, trust is built in drops and lost in buckets. We know that it's the most, we would be incredibly silly to risk our 5,000 plus customers on something sort of, I don't know, like that. Like we're sort of, that's not sort of how we operate. There's one more just quick little thing I'm going to share just to be a massive Qwilr shill for 2 seconds, which is, and you can do this in other tools as well. So this is a customer of ours. This is a template that they're happy to share. They are, I think, like one of the best companies out there for like if you're doing international travel with a pet that needs to go through this. They are amazingly good at handling that. So this is from Starwood Pet Travel. Again, you can see like building trust, video, someone from the company who you'll be working with. They've got a bunch of different people on their team who've got recorded videos they use here. They go through the high level things here. They sort of explain the core basics, and then they get to pricing and packages. And you can see here, one of the things that's interesting is like, they used to only send what the package they thought that customer wanted. They would just sort of, and often, most of the time, that was this economy offer. But now that they've had these sort of different options here, as well as you can see everything that's involved and upselling, etc., you can also be like, oh, do you know what? I do want this one, but I don't want this one. And you can see your live total update in real time. Star would have said that on 49% of deals they sell, they now get upsold from the base economy rate. And so I think, again, like something to think about in your proposal, again, making this easy for the buyer is being like, sometimes 3 is right, sometimes it's not. But also sometimes you can be like, I don't need to send you. I can still leave some degree of choice in your CEO or CFO's hands to be like, do you know what? Actually, we don't have the budget right now. We can only do this option. And you know what? We're not gonna do this either, but actually we can kind of make this work. Or they can be like, do you know what? Actually, I do think we should do this, or blah, blah, blah. And that makes it, again, easy for them to understand, like, what is this actually going to cost? What do we get included in that? Oh, I'm a bit worried about adoption. Maybe we should buy some extra training, or we should do this, that, the other. And again, for donors, Gail, there's a whole bunch of interesting stuff you can do there to sort of have different paths that sort of are available there. But having that ability to just like make that easy, make it like empower them in a way to sort of, have agency in the decision, I think can also be very powerful.
Well, I heard that Adam from Starwood is even on this webinar. So look at that. And it's really smart what Adam and his team are doing. You actually said it in one of the last things you said, Mark, before I almost rudely interrupted you, which is you give the buyer agency, you give them autonomy. Buyers do not want to, this is whether or not this is a proposal like discussion or not, buyers don't want to be put in a corner. They don't want to be forced by a salesperson to do anything. And the more you can give the customer perceived control over the direction that they're going, the happier they're going to be, and the more likely that they're actually going to follow the paths you present. And so actually what happened there, it was really smart what Adam did, was there's 3 options there. And there's not a 4th option, which is don't sign this proposal, don't move forward with this at all. And what happens is when you present, hey, do you want to go down path A, B, or C? You turn it from a, do you want to do this or not, into a which one is right for me. The buyer feels like they're in control, but you actually get to choose their destiny because the options you present. Adam, correct me if I'm wrong. My guess is you're happy if they take any of those options. I also want to add one more thing that Taylor put in the chat also. Taylor said, I would imagine coaching your champion on how to effectively persuade the other stakeholders to view the proposal would be key as well. And I think that's true. One of the ways that you can help coach your champion to do this is when you're talking with them and you're talking about, hey, you're going to go share this with other people, you might ask the question, hey, I'm curious, like, how are you planning on positioning this internally? Or how are you planning on explaining this to the team? And what will happen is they'll explain to you how they plan to explain it to the team. And what this does is two things. One, it gives you a sense of their understanding of the problem and how you solve it. But it also gives you an opportunity to coach them on how they will go sell this to the team. And so there's two great impacts from asking that question. How do you plan to position this to the team? Oh, man, we got set up. Does Qwilr provide a service to custom design proposals? So we're not using a template, but having a professional design build a proposal for us. Mark, I know we were talking before this, and I convinced you to do a little giveaway for the team, didn't I?
This is dreamy, Jono. You must be a plant. So yes, that's an amazing one. I'm actually going to drop this in the chat right now. So look, we do have an offer here, and feel free to, there's a link that's going to be in the chat right now. We've got a wonderful team here inside Qwilr of designers, about 6 of them who work on our team across this, who work with companies of all types and stripes to sort of get them set up and running with Qwilr. So if you've got collateral that you would like to have, sort of see what that looks like in a Qwilr page, we can help with that. If you're like, I've got this collateral, but it's really janky in a Word doc, but we've got this brand guidelines, we've got this new website, and we're going through a rebrand, and we'd love to have it look kind of like what this looks like. The team is amazingly good at that. If you've got anything, if you don't have that, but you're still like, I just want it to look really wonderful and impressive and be the best quality like in my industry, the team is fantastic at. They do like hundreds and hundreds of this stuff. They do, if you need more than just one, we obviously, it's very affordable. It's like less than $100 per sort of document typically, and can get, and if you buy at scale, it can get sort of quite cheap, etc. But I think the team can be like really genuinely fantastic on this side, and they're lovely. They're a lovely bunch of humans to work with. So I think You're
underselling it. I'm terrible at design, and the team really helped me make my proposal not look crummy. So like it or not, buyers are judging you based upon how your proposal looks. And so if you're a salesperson, my guess is you are not an expert at design. I spend most of my time thinking about how I sell stuff, not how I design stuff. I did not go to school for design, but I sell to marketing. And when marketers look at my crummy looking proposal, I am in trouble. And so you've got to get something that looks good. Perception is reality. They will help you with that.
And I think no, and for sure. And I think also the nice thing here is like, once you've had it done once, obviously you can reuse that in a bunch of different ways and make it into a template and other things like that. You don't have to keep coming back to the service. Once you've done it once, it is fantastic. You can obviously keep working it as needed. I think
we have a couple questions.
A couple more questions. Let's roll in here. I've got a great one from William. So William asked us a little while ago, you can't win 100% of your deals. What do you do in 6 months to follow up, redo your proposal if it doesn't get the sign off the first time? And so I'm going to mainly throw this to Nick, but I've got one little secret thing in here, which is just that one of the fun things about having analytics on your proposal is that you can very easily look at your Qwilr pages by most recently viewed. And you can also have some notifications be triggered around view notifications. And if you have a deal that you sent out 4 months ago that you were like, this is a lost deal, it's gone off there, and then you get notified that they viewed the page again, that is like, hey, Nick, how are you? Like, what's going on? Would be lovely to have a chat. And I think like the ability to sort of quickly and easily reach back out when you find people are re-engaging with that proposal can be like a very, very powerful one. But Nick, what do you do when you sort of think about like, hey, we went through a process, it went like pretty well, but we ended up losing it. They kind of said, reach back out in 6 months, perhaps, or maybe they didn't. Like, how do you think about that?
I mean, it's all contextual here. You need to understand the reason that you didn't win that deal. And you should have an open and honest conversation with the buyer about what happened? And it's okay to throw yourself under the bus a little bit here. And you might even admit, you might say, Mark doesn't sign my contract. Mark doesn't like the proposal. They don't move forward. I might call him and I'd say, Mark, I really appreciate all the time that you and your team spent even taking a look at us. I know you're running a business, and the fact that your team spent a lot of time with us means a lot to me. I'm hoping you to give me a sense of like what you would recommend that I do. Obviously, we want to work with you, and the timing didn't work out. I definitely don't want to be the salesperson that's like prematurely emailing you in a week about, oh, ready to buy now. Like, talk to me about where your head's at. And what I want to do is I want to share, I'm hoping to get the truth as opposed to the answer that I want. And I think a lot of times buyers give us the answer that they think that we want because they've been trained by most salespeople that if you don't give the answer that the salesperson wants, reach back out next quarter, that the salesperson's going to be aggressive or rude or weird. And so like, I really like to be like, look, man, if you buy this, awesome. If you don't, that's perfectly fine. Like, help give me a sense of where your head is at. And that will dictate how you follow up. Hopefully that's helpful, William. Let me know if you have more detail on that you want us to get into.
Just one quick side note there, which is just like a thing I do a lot of is coaching first-time founders in founder-led sales. Yeah. And a lot of first-time founders and new business owners like aren't super comfortable with sales, but also they're in that early stage and they're trying to figure out like kind of product market fit, like, how do I actually sell this? And one of the great things that you have as a business owner or a new seller or whatever else is like the ability to ask why. And if you win a deal or lose a deal, sometimes like just going in and being like, hey, like I genuinely, like, I'm not trying to like change your mind or anything. I just really want to understand like, why did you go with us or why didn't you, or what were the sort of core things here? And you start to learn, you kind of want to be able to ask and get that real feedback to sort of be like, do you know what? That's actually not the right customer for us to go after, or that was not the right messaging, or this, and I think that sort of nuance, like genuinely can make such a difference to your sales process.
Yeah. Elena had a question about, she says, hi from Sydney. We're a marketing agency servicing event and tourism sectors. Clients tend to ask for detailed information of our service inclusions, marketing, social, digital, and then want creative. Should we write inclusion sections for each service with pricing embedded within? Or do we add pricing at the end? Can we embed creative that would usually be placed in a portfolio in Qwilr? And then she continues on. It's like, we can have 15-page proposals plus a summary of pricing, and it's way too much. And I'm worried that we're losing them. Mark, what recommendations would you have for somebody? I feel like this would be a really cool like series of like, they do, what do they call it? It's like house renovation, like HGTV shows. We could do that with proposals. That would be kind of cool. Maybe you've already done that. What advice would you have for Elena or Alana?
Alana, I'm very excited to like have one of your documents created in a Qwilr page so you can see what's available here. So yeah, look, it's a web page. You can embed creative. You can embed them either in those little folded sections you saw, or as their own standalone pieces of any shape and size, or multi-column, et cetera. You can sort of, and we support basically anything that can be embedded from around the web. We've got, I think, like 50 plus native tools. It's incredibly easy to do with, and anything that can be embedded with Qwilr. I think like with the pricing services thing, I think like we've got a lot of people who have different opinions as the right way to do this. So you saw a packages view before, but you can just have like sections with basic pricing. You can have like gold, silver, bronze, done in sort of a different structure of packages, with each package having optional extras added onto it. And we've kind of built it in a way that allows it to be like incredibly configurable, so that you can structure it whatever the way that you think your buyers want to buy, right? And I think that's the sort of core thing here, is you want to be able to make it easy to educate them quickly and easily, then also make it easy for them to make a choice. You kind of, in a way, you can sometimes go down a path that leads to like analysis paralysis. You actually want to be like, hey, here's a relatively limited set of options, but with a bunch of variability that you can kind of configure it pretty easily on that side. I think like if you're getting to 15 pages, like that's an easy thing in Qwilr to frankly still have 15 pages worth of content, but in one that's skimmable, that sort of looks like it's more like 3 or 4 pages. With this sort of, folded sections, or some customers actually will have entire, like they'll link out to other Qwilr pages, where those Qwilr pages are like the in-depth sort of look at like, hey, for this, or your website, hey, this is more info on this service or this package here or whatever else. And so the web really does allow for like navigation in a very interesting, dynamic way. You don't have to have everything be all on the deck or all on the PDF.
Yeah.
Okay, the very last question, I think. So how have the Qwilr proposals been received by traditional buyers? Think like government, banks, etc., etc., etc. It's a great question. I think when we first, just to be very truthful with you, we first started this company in like 2014, 2015. And like, you know, I think there were some challenges then. Like people were like, this is a web page, like, you know, etc. We have like, I don't know if we'll be in hundreds, but definitely north of 100 government agencies. We have a bunch of universities. We've got a bunch of utilities. We've got a bunch of sort of banks, like, you know, and financial institutions, like, you know, teams from Morgan Stanley, teams from law firms like Ashurst, like from a bunch of others, like you know, Morningstar is on our website, Gartner, Thomson Reuters. Like these are relatively traditional players who sell also to other sort of quite traditional players, and the web is just a normal part of everybody's life. You know, obviously you might want to have, like, you know, there are different ways you can design and structure your things to make a Qwilr page look like, you know, Nick's was very jazzy. It's got that, you know, very colorful thing at the start, and you know, that's their brand, that's their look and feel. Like, you know, when Gartner does their proposals, like it looks like a Gartner proposal. Like it looks to their brand style. It looks like their website. It looks, you know, like they've got some beautiful, interesting design elements, but like it still looks quite like corporate in a way, I suppose, or professional maybe is a better word. And I think that, you know, you need to design for your audience. You know, if you like, I'm a startup, I'm turning up in my Qwilr branded shirt. If I'm going to pitch somebody and I know they're all going to be wearing suits, like maybe I'm not wearing a suit and tie, but I'm at least wearing a really nice ironed collared shirt and like being presentable and trying to speak their language. And I think similarly with proposals, like if they're going to get everything else is, you know, a PDF and yours is a Qwilr, that can be a real superpower, so long as it still looks and feels right. And they're like, wow, this is modern, but it's not too modern that it's sort of scary. Now, every Qwilr page, you can download it as a PDF. And if you wish to, you can just send the PDF version. Obviously, you kind of don't get any of the benefits if you do that. But like in the early days of Qwilr, we would see something like 15% of all proposals would have a PDF download of it. And now it's like less than 0.5%. So it still happens. Like people still need to download a PDF version and send that to certain customers or whatever else. But it is very rare.
You can't be perceived to be better until you are first perceived to be different.
Boom. Well, look, there's a perfect line to end on. Team, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for all the questions. It's been a real pleasure to sort of chat with everybody here today. We're going to send around a summary, an email later on, which will have a link to the video here. It'll also have a bunch of information about the topics we talked on. You'll have a link to the offer. I have a link to 30 MPC. I would strongly encourage you to go and check out the 30 Minutes to President's Club gang. They do some really fantastic work, and like they're always, I think, focused on delivering what was that, the cookie dough, not more so.
You're
than
making me hungry. It's 3 o'clock here in California, so I'm almost
9
done with my work
here,
day.
mate. I can't be talking about ice cream.
I'm ready to eat. So
okay, friends, thank you so much. It was a real pleasure, and yeah, it was great chat today.
See you, everybody. Thanks for joining.